Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. Welcome back to the show, Bob.
Good morning, Jim. Here we are with a nice sunny Friday in Vancouver.
And after 3 weeks of solid rain, it's nice.
Yes, indeed.
But, you know, the flowers are still blooming in Vancouver for people around North America who may be experiencing real winter. That's what winter's like here. A lot of rain, and we still have flowers in December.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes you get roses blooming in February, for gosh sake. So.
Yeah. Bob, we have a number of questions from listeners around our little blue marble. So let's jet off and answer a question from Butch. Bob, looks like governments are turning over every stone for more taxes. They never look in the mirror that they spend too much. Canada looks finished to me. Has Bob got any good ideas where someone could relocate easily without too much problem to move financial assets before there is nothing left here?
Oh, indeed. This was something that I was talking about just the other day with friends, is that Canada's experiment in unlimited government, and of course funded by the Bank of Canada providing unlimited funding, is a disaster. But there's no place to go. There was a video I saw a month ago prior to the U.S. election, and it was a woman in California who, she might have been 60, and she had moved, or had escaped with her family when she was young from communist Cuba. And here she was looking at what the Democrats are doing in the United States, and almost in tears said, where can we go next? And this is really critical. The settlement in the eastern United States, in the early 1600s, was by people getting away from tyranny. And then, of course, cities downtown can also be tyrannical, so the movement west and west and west. And then in the, certainly right up until, I guess, the 70s, you could take your wealth and place it in a Swiss bank, and it was absolutely unassailable. There was also talk about banks in Grand Caymans and stuff like that. But you can't do that. And so geographically, Butch, there is no place to go to. And even Switzerland is losing a bit of its edge. And then also financially, there is no place where you can keep your wealth or your money private. So what this is going to do is the ordinary folks like us are just going to say, hey, it's time to take a stand. And this is certainly coming down in the huge political storm going on with the U.S. election, which is blatant state theft there, stealing ballots. So, yeah, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it's time for the middle classes to stand up and say no. And actually, they've already started. It's called a popular uprising. I've called it a benign popular uprising. And this is where the left has gone berserk, because it's the first time in generations that it's had a very strong no. And so the political turmoil out there is not from ordinary folk. It's from the left going crazy because they're getting a very strong no. And the thing to do now is to even ramp up the no everywhere. I mean, even get rid of the change from daylight savings time to standard time and all this sort of nonsense. So I think we can do it. I'm an optimist on it, Bush, and thanks for that part of the question.
Butch also asks, Bob, I really enjoy your stories about trading years back on the trading floors. I've talked to some old traders, and they say they could get a feel on the floor. I'd love to hear some of those stories from the past. Thank you very much,
feel
Butch.
On the floor. Ooh, that's a 1950s phrase. Anyways, yeah, there on the old Vancouver Stock Exchange, when it was still had floor traders, there were certainly legends and stories about that, but one I remember is a very good mining brokerage firm, T.A. Richardson, and in those days, the brokerage office, I think this would have been the early 70s, the brokerage office had the trading room from which orders came in for stocks, bonds, whatever, and then the trader in the trading room would then enter, if it was an order for the Vancouver Stock Exchange, with the floor trader. Now, one of the floor traders then was a very tall woman. She was over 6 foot tall. I can't remember her name, but her nickname was, quite simply, Too Tall. And then she was quite a strikingly handsome woman. And then in the office, in the trading room, one of the traders there, he was a very short guy. He was like right about 5 foot tall. So in those days, stocks and bonds traded in eighths and quarters and halves. So Greg, his nickname was 7/8, which of course is not quite one. And I'll leave that one with you.
Bob, another question here. This one is from Gavin in Ireland. And I'm sorry to butcher the accent there.
Yeah.
But I always attempt because I have relatives in Athlone, which is in the middle of Ireland, a great place to be based out of if you're going to tour, because no place in Ireland is more than 2.5 hours away. Hi, Jim. I have a question for Bob this week. I recently listened to an interview where the analyst believed that a 40% correction in the stock market would happen before April, and we would enter a massive deflationary cycle for years to come. Of note, he mentioned gold stocks would initially go up at the start of the year, but would be destroyed thereafter within the deflationary cycle. Deflationary. We wish, if it comes to losing weight. In comparison to the 1930s depression, he mentioned that the gold price was manipulated by the government, then kept artificially high, so gold stocks will not follow the same path this time. 30-year treasuries will be the only safe haven for the coming depression. What are your thoughts on his analysis and on other historical deflationary busts? Has the real price of gold stood up? Thanks, Gavin from Ireland.
Gavin, thanks a lot. Yeah. First of all, correction, calling for a 40% correction is rather precise on the general stock market. What we're looking for now is the probability of a turn-of-the-year top. There's so many great speculations in the past have become exuberant going into January and then failed. So we don't know how much the correction will be. Entering a massive deflationary cycle, this is simple, and it's a pattern rather than a cycle. In the past, and I'll use 1920 and 1929 as the example, 1920 was a huge boom in commodities. And then that concluded essentially a decade of inflation. And then that then crashed and set up a decade of inflation in financial assets, like to 1929. And so this has been the pattern. This is now the sixth time around. Now, what we did see is a decade of rampant inflation and commodity bull markets, huge speculation there, You could only invest in remember the quip about commodities is you should only own things that if you drop them on your foot, you would feel it. Real things. So anyways, now here's where this researcher you cited didn't do enough research. In all previous post-bubble contractions, the first great bubble concluded in 1720 and was followed by a post-bubble contraction of about 20 years. And in it, the real price of gold went up. And then that made mining gold more profitable. It's a spread on the cost of mining and what you're getting for the bullion price, and it doesn't matter whether the price of gold is fixed or not. So this is the way the markets work. The financial markets destroy themselves in a fury of speculation and debt issuance. They crash and you get deflation in both financial and tangible assets, leaving an immense problem of debt. And the only way you can get real liquidity is by having the real price of gold go up. So it's Mother Nature's way of getting liquidity back into a very distressed credit market. And although all interventionist economists hate gold, but here's a more refined on this, is that in the final years of a great bubble, the real price of gold has gone down, and it really went down from 2011 down to 2018, where it spent a year bottoming. And then since then, gold's real price has really gone up. That the real price is as deflated by the consumer price index. And the other thing is that in the final parts of a great financial bubble, because of the real price of gold going down, gold companies suffer. Their costs are going up and their price isn't good. So this is what we had, and the gold stocks underperformed during most of the last few years of bubble, except since 2018, and this is where the gold sector could be anticipating a deflationary world, is that gold's real price has been going up very strongly, and the gold stocks, I use the GDXJ, have been outperforming the Standard & Poor's. And from the move from in 2018 to last August, which was a speculative high, the gold stocks outperformed the S&P by almost a double. I mean, that's huge outperformance. And then it's been correcting since. I mean, we got all kinds of overboughts on that one. So this is where the question is right, half the research is right, but the gold sector on 4 previous long Great Depressions did very well. And it's Mother Nature's way of reliquefying the credit markets after a financial mania. So I'm looking forward to it. I like the sector.
Our next question comes from Andrew. Andrew says, hello, Jim Bob. After the weeks of hearings and presentations of evidence of voter fraud and election fraud, anyone watching must conclude that there was not only a concerted effort, but a conspiracy to obstruct the will of the American people to choose their elected representatives. We have this problem, too, in many European countries. With the vaccines on the way and governments consequently likely to ease restrictions step by step, is it likely people will just go back to living their lives as if nothing had happened and forget about the U.S. presidential election, or have bought and paid for politicians and their due minions gone too far this time?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this one is so outrageous. Now, you might call me the trading floor skeptic. Or no, the trading floor cynic. But at any rate, we've known for a very long time that the Democrats steal vote. Although they're sort of the party of atheists, that they're capable of raising the dead, particularly at election time when they get the vote. And as far as getting the vote out, Some districts have had, maybe 100,000 registered voters, and they had 120,000 votes. So, yeah, crooked as hell. But what pushed this off is that the surge for Trump and the Republicans down ticket was so strong that it tilted their machine, like these Dominion machines, which were designed to take 2 to 3% of the vote and shift it from Trump to Biden. It couldn't keep up with it. And then they realized that they had to do something. So this is where they shut down the voting machines, the computers, which were distorting things. And then they actually had to come up with literally truckloads of fake ballots. So this is where it is. It is so blatantly corrupt. And what it was the surge for Trump that forced the distortions to be so big and so obvious. And I'm confident that the U.S. Constitution will become effective and will be successful. It is actually the legislatures, different state legislatures, that make the final decision. And then I think you're going to have the backup of the Supreme Court to make sure that all of the legalities are correct. So it is so outrageous that it is prompting the reform, and I think it'll work. I'm optimistic about it. So we'll know by early January, because the vote in Georgia is going to be important too on the Senate. I think the U.S. Constitution will become effective. I think the attempt to trash the Constitution is going to fail.
We'll have more with Bob Hoye right after this.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Bob, a headline that caught your attention. The Nasdaq wants to require sexual and racial quotas for company boards. What's your feeling on that?
Oh, this is incredible. It shows that any organization or any department over time will go absolutely authoritarian. And at the moment, you've got these functionaries in the exchange, which you need to keep things running, and they've become highly politicized. So they are then out to insist that any companies that want to be listed for trading on the Nasdaq have to have a board of directors with racial and sexual quotas as determined by the bureaucrats at the exchange. This is just not just crazy, it's evil. And it's mind-boggling when you get this kind of stuff going on, and it does nothing to enhance the operations of a company or its probity, anything. It's something that the functionaries at an exchange should not be involved with at all. I hope this just gets quietly buried.
The everything rally, especially in Europe. What's the story there?
Oh, yeah. World stocks boast record-breaking month led by Europe. Now, this is interesting that obviously, and I hadn't taken a look at it, some European indexes are outperforming even New York. And it is an everything bubble. And these things can become quite impetuous. And again, earlier in our show, I mentioned that terrific speculations have had a tendency to complete in the January window. One huge one was the Nikkei, the Tokyo market, in last trading day of 1989. Then there was the huge and crazy bubble in gold and silver that completed, I think it was January 20th of 1980. Major bull market completed in January 1973 and was followed by the worst bear market since the 1930s. So there are examples of major speculations concluding in this year-end window. We've called it from time to time turn of the year phenomenon, and I think I've got one all the way back to 1903, I think. I don't know, I've dragged it out the other day. I think I'll put together a study on it, and yeah, we will do a study on the turn of the year stuff, and people feel welcome to check out our website for it. And also on these conclusions, I know a really good one was the Bitcoin bubble, and it at the peak, I think it was December 17th in 2017, and we got the sequential sell signal on the sector, and that peaked a month before the stock market did, and then you had in 2018 a really severe hit, particularly to the Bitcoin stuff, and then it took the rest of the market down. So, and then recently here now on Bitcoin, we're getting exceptional technical readings. So, yeah, we'll watch this one really closely to see how it goes. But again, it depends on the technical skills that you have. You have to recognize just how extreme the speculation is before you start lightening up. And the same thing goes opposite. When you're at the other end of a decline, you have to have a model that recognizes just how severe things are, because the old saying is you don't want to be standing there trying to catch falling knives. They don't have handles. So our work is pretty reliable at major highs and major lows, and sometimes in between.
We'll have more with Bob Hoye right after this.
Value from success. Growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Bob Hoye. Bob, as part of the everything rally, everything jumped. It didn't matter what it was when they announced that there would be 2 or 3 viable vaccines. What's your take on it?
Oh, yeah. We saw that. We take a look at the broad index like the Nasdaq comp or the NYSE comp. There were 3 huge weekly bars on the gain since October, and these were tied to the news amounts about vaccines. Now, it'll be terrific that a cure, a vaccine comes along that works, and then people can get back to normal. But also, it's going to take quite a while to do it. It's going to take quite a while to implement the vaccines. So we can, and also the authoritarian governments are on a craze here. They're going to use everything they can to control your day-to-day activities. And as the coronavirus diminishes, I'm quite certain that the authoritarians will find yet another reason to personally control your life. Until, as I said, I'm the great optimist, until the public says, enough, you guys are out of here. And that is not going to be easy, but it will happen. So I'm looking forward to that part.
Well, with 7.8 billion people, that's a lot of vaccine.
Yep, it is a lot of vaccine, a lot of needles and whatnot. So I think mainly older people should consider it. Like, I'm an older people, and I'm at risk on this thing, and I'm just keeping a very low profile. So,
Bob, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Jim, good to be with you, and we had some good questions from our listeners. And it was pleasing to hear the one from Gavin in Ireland. So there we are. We'll have to go and have a pint with him sometime.
Yeah, so a real pint of Guinness at
Real
Dirty Nell's
Guinness.
pub there at Bunratty Castle.
None of this thin stuff for me. It's got to have body to it, and Guinness is the stuff. So.
Yeah, I've been to Dirty Nell's, established back, I think, in the 1300s. The ceilings are so low, it makes me feel like a tall man.
Oh my gosh!
Oh yeah, my guest is.
There's a pub near Beaconsfield in England. It's not that far from London, and that pub has been there. Parts of the building date back to 1300, and there was apparently suggestions that the well water there was so good that there might have been a brewery there in Roman times, which takes you back to 300. So, yeah, whenever I was in Beaconsfield visiting relatives, I really enjoyed going to those old pubs. Loved them.
My guest has been market historian Bob Hoye. He's the chief investment strategist for chartsandmarkets.com. If you have any questions for Bob, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.